Convention of State supporters. My name is Whitney Taylor. I am your host for today's COS Live. I am joined by Andrew Woodruff once again. Andrew, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, I am doing just amazing, Whitney. Thank you for asking. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. I'm very excited about today's episode.
Yeah.
We have a lot of things that are going on in our nation right now. And with the Electoral College voting for Joe Biden yesterday, many of us are realizing that we will more than likely end up with Joe Biden as president in 2021. So what now? What recourse do we have? We actually are going to be having some 4 regional captains, directors for Convention of States Action come on this evening, and they're going to be answering that question for us. I am so excited to talk with our regional directors. They are brilliant and they have amazing insight on what's been going on in their states across the nation and just updating us on what's happening. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a really great episode, so definitely stay tuned for that. But first, we have a very important video that we all want you to watch, so take a look.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
Joe Biden might have won the election, but will he be the one running the show?
No.
The deep state's back in charge, back to increasing their power over your lives, back to spending your tax dollars on waste and fraud, back to incestuous corruption, and the Supreme Court remade into the image of the swamp. Do you really trust these guys to put up a fight?
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not advance.
There's good news. Amazingly, the founders knew something like this might happen. They put a secret weapon inside the Constitution for exactly this moment. An Article 5 Convention of States to drain the swamp permanently. It's a constitutional solution as big as the DC problem. So let's send the career politicians packing, make the feds live by a real budget, and put the people back in charge. America needs you. Trump did what he could. Now it's our turn. It's our responsibility to finish the job. It's time for we the people to deliver a death blow to the deep state. Sign up at www.conventionofstates.com. Join the movement to save America. Help us make history by changing DC forever. Convention of States. Now. It's time.
We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Awesome. Great video. All right. Now I'm going to welcome our 4 regional directors for Convention of States Action, David, Catherine, Dennis, and Grant Martin, who are across the nation right now working so hard for the 2021 legislative session that's coming up. There are a few more, obviously, but we can't fit them all into one broadcast. So these are our amazing regional directors that are doing this evening. Thank you all so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Doing well.
Great.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. So first, I just want to ask you guys, before we get into the go forward plan, I want quick reactions on yesterday's news. What are y'all hearing from the boots on the ground, the grassroots that are around the nation, in your states regarding the Electoral College news and the growing possibility that there will be a Biden administration in 2021? Does this news kind of ramp up the urgency for COS grassroots Army in your region? Does that kind of fire them up a little bit? I'm going to start with Dave. Do you have any insight on that?
Well, it certainly highlights the fact that the Convention of States is very much a needed thing here in America. And I've been with the organization long enough to remember prior to President Trump being around. And certainly when we had President Obama in office, there was a big push for convention states. Matter of fact, we got our start under the Obama administration for convention states. I think people are waking up to the fact that, you know, these were 4 years of stuff that we liked that were happening, and perhaps we didn't move fast enough for the convention states. And I think right now people are waking up again to the convention of states movement. And right now, we're getting a lot of action in the grassroots, asking where we are, how can we help and signing up to be district captains and ramping up, or we're going to be live in legislatures all across America just in a few weeks here in January. So that's really been the buzz. Even after November or so, even before the Electoral College met just yesterday, people are starting to have their eyes opened up again to the fact that convention states is the solution, no matter who the president is. Really, we need to have a convention of states to rebalance the power between the states and the federal government, and to ensure that we get to those term limits on Congress, balanced budget amendment, things that are going to really strip some of the power away from the federal government and put we the people back in charge of that swamp that Trump has gone and tried to drain, which, of course, one man can't do by himself. So here we are with convention of states to make it happen back in the states. So absolutely a big push in the states, especially in some of my states like Kansas and Nebraska, and Montana, and Wyoming, and South Dakota, and even Michigan, where you saw some of the election shenanigans that have been playing out on your screen. There's a renewed interest in the convention of states, and we're gonna make a big push there when we come back in January. So there we go.
Nice. I love to hear it. What about you, Catherine? What do you say?
Dave's completely right about this. And here is what I am really sensing from the volunteers in my states and my region. So many people recognize now that they were born to fight for a time such as this. They are in this fight. They are geared up for 2021, regardless of who our president is, who our vice president is. They want to bring the power back to their state legislators, and they're out there now building relationships with the new state legislators who are coming in. They're figuring out who will be the leaders in their states, and they are ready to just come to those state capitals, build those relationships, and get a resolution passed in this country.
Nice. I love it. Dennis, what do you think?
The chaos
Dennis.
with the corona.
Oh, no, you're good. Go for it.
Okay. Am I? With the coronavirus, I think people's eyes have been opened, and we've seen a great increase in influx of people coming into our system, and people wanting to volunteer. I've done a lot of calls with people, and they want to do something. They know that there's things are wrong, and that we've got the solution, and they're looking for something, and we can help them out on that. I know that a lot of people are frustrated. I'm over the western states. I've got all blue states. Hawaii is one that only doesn't have any Republicans in their state legislature. And of course, all of the western states have pretty much locked down. So people are frustrated. They want to get out and meet people and tell people about the Convention of States, and they haven't been able to do that. So, we've gone on and we've done a lot of Zoom meetings. We've done a lot of virtual meetings now. We've set up meetings with our legislators in California, and we keep educating and helping people to understand the power that we have to return this power back to we the people and to the states. So even though it's been a frustrating time, it's also a very positive time, because we're looking forward and we're going to have a great year next year, and our states are really gearing up to have a lot of action in all of our legislatures. So it's been a plus minus type of a year, but I think it's very much on the plus side.
For sure. What about you, Grant?
Hey, Whitney, it's great to be here with you and the gang. So, I'll just echo what the rest of the team here has said. I think this is just a wonderful opportunity for us. And although there is frustration out there in the grassroots, certainly I sense just a complete desire to do something. You see the number of people that are signing our petitions that are coming in. We have record numbers of district captains coming in, getting engaged. Some of them may have been on the teams for a while, but yet are just now getting back engaged, because we give them a solution, and it's great to be. I was just fortunate enough last weekend, not this past one, but the weekend before, to be up with the North Carolina team. Just had an amazing meeting, so much energy. Yeah, people are frustrated about what's going on with this election, but they're ready to do something about it. And I'm really, really excited to be with some amazing grassroots volunteers, and I can't thank them enough for all that they do.
Grant, you said something that really segues perfectly into my question for you. And that is, people are frustrated about the election, but they're ready to do something. And it's interesting because there was all these irregularities within the election, and many people have doubts whether the election was fair. And a lot of those people are also calling for election reform. And Convention of States, as you kind of were talking about, Convention of States has showed up, and they are trying to do something about that. For example, the Arizona team, they issued a call to action, and 13,000 messages went out calling for Arizona to audit the vote. And also in Pennsylvania, there were thousands of COS supporters that made thousands of calls and messages to their state legislature or legislators to have the state legislature look into those election irregularities. And the legislature responded. So you see that the are able to show up and put pressure on these state legislatures. So are the COS teams in your states, are they concerned or are they focused on these election irregularities? And how important is it for state legislatures to restore faith that our votes actually matter? I'll go to you, Catherine, and let you answer that one first.
Thanks, Andrew. I live in Michigan, and I think Michigan has been really the center of things. And right now I'm in Antrim County, Michigan, where there's been some dispute over the Dominion voting machines. There's an actual lawsuit here. So for me, this is really important. However, we cannot lose focus as far as what we have to do to bring the power back to the people, which is through our state legislators. And, this has been kind of a blessing with all of this election, let's just call it people just not being sure about this election. And what really has happened is people have said, hey, I know that my state legislator has power within our Constitution. It's right there. Let's also show them Article 5 that they have the power to call a convention. And so now is really the time to teach our state legislators, which some of them may not really even recognize that how much power they have within our U.S. Constitution. So I think it's really important for us to stay focused. Yes, we're frustrated. Many of us have sort of lost that will to want to go on. But as I mentioned at the top of this broadcast, I really have just got a spirit in me now. I've been doing a lot of praying about this. What should I do? Where should I direct my energies? And, people are just flocking to Convention of States right now because we have a solution. So I'm trying to focus my teams, all of them, on just build that relationship with your state legislator, stand by them when they stand for self-governing principles, and they'll stand by us when we really need them to call this convention. And that's now. Now is the time for sure.
Dave, what about you? What about your state when it comes to election integrity and restoring faith in in how votes are counted?
Well, I think Catherine really hit the point extremely well there. And you look at the solutions, right? And Catherine talked about a solution. We do offer a solution where we're the only organization nationwide that's centered around state legislatures. We only operate in the state legislatures across America, and it's all 50 states. So we have an operation all across the country operating right now in the state legislatures, which is very, very important because you look at the solution that we're offering through Article 5, which is not our solution, obviously. It's the founding fathers or our framers of the Constitution solution. They wrote right into Article 5. And you look at other solutions that are out there. What other solutions do we have? Do we keep doing the same thing and trying to hope and pray that we get good elected individuals that are going to fix the swamp and fix the problem that we have in Washington, D.C.? Or do we look at civil war? I see all kinds of messages out there that people are saying, all right, let's secede. Let's figure this thing out with armed revolt, and let's figure it all out. Okay, those are solutions, not necessarily good ones, but what I'm trying to say is this is the best option. It's in the Constitution. It is constitutional, and we have to go through this process. And so that's what the message is that we've been saying this entire time, is we've got to get to a convention so we can figure some of this stuff out. And I know there's a lot of fear that might be out there saying, well, we just saw this election craziness. What's to say that this won't happen at a convention? Well, we got to remember the process, and people are just not familiar with how this process was. First thing you need to do is go open your Constitution and read Article 5 and talk about, okay, think about through your head the math problem to get to a convention. And then at the convention, think about how much support you're going to need to have a proposed amendment come out of that particular meeting. And then think about ratification. 38 states have to agree to any proposal that comes out of the convention before it becomes part of the Constitution. This is going to be the way that we save America. Think about it. This is going to be the biggest civics lessons this country's had in over 150 years. We have to go through this process to figure out how we go from here. Otherwise, those other solutions I talked about earlier are the only other things that we can do, right? So apathy, revolution, or convention states. And I'm going to do everything I can to ensure that we go through the Constitution and we fix things the proper way that the Founding Fathers put in the Constitution.
Oh, awesome. Dennis, I'm going to move over to you. What do you think?
Oh yeah, that's there's a lot of things that are on the table for us to look at, but we really need to remember what our mission is, and our mission is to grow the grassroots. That's where our power is at, and also in educating the people in our districts, in our states, about the power that they have through the Constitution to return the power to the people and to where the government does the best job, and that's locally there. Somebody that they can go talk to, somebody that maybe their neighbor, maybe their friends, or go to church with. We've got that opportunity, and we've got to take it. So the idea that we've got other issues like the election integrity, yes, that's important, and that's something that you can do, but we have to remember what our main function is, and that's to reach out to people, educate them to what power they have, and then activate them and make them a good citizens just beyond working and going and taking a vote, but being involved in the process. So this is important, and we need to stay on track.
I love that staying on track, staying on mission. All right, Grant, I'm going to go to you to wrap up this question.
All right, yeah, and I have to agree with a lot of what's been said here. You know, obviously we've got to rein in the power of the federal government. First off, I mean these elections, the presidential election should really be the least consequential thing for any one of us. To me, it just kind of shows how upside down our country is right now, right? The power is supposed to be closest to we the people, and somehow it's got to, well, I think we all know how, but somehow it's got to one big conglomeration there in Washington, D.C., which is really truly the battle that we're having, and that's the fight that we're in, right? Bringing that power back to us so that way we have control over what's going on. You know, now, as far as the election reform, you know, our teams get involved in a lot of different ways, sometimes within convention states, sometimes outside of convention states. But one of the beauties of our activists is they learn, we teach them how to engage with state legislators. And if you really want legislative or election reform that's handled at the state legislature level, well, that takes building relationships, understanding the process that goes on within these states. One of these states, you know, the beauty of federalism, you know, each one of these states operates a little bit differently and understanding the role. So, I mean, I think it's a very exciting time certainly for Convention of States as an organization, because we have these activists that can make a difference and that we can pull this power back, but we can also focus and do sometimes in other areas, just depending, like election reform. So it's very much a state by state thing. Depending on a lot of the bottom line is our activists are truly tip of the spear when it comes to these types of things and other issues that's why our mission to pass a Convention of States resolution to build the largest, most engaged grassroots army of activists out there, because we need to hold these legislators at state, federal, and all levels accountable.
Yes, absolutely. Wow, great answers. That really, really encourages me. I love to hear that. And there is some good news that's come from this election. In the midst of all of this nonsense that's happening, it does come from the state level. All of this crazy stuff. A lot of states have actually flipped their seats across the country. So even though people might be frustrated about the presidential race, there are some very positive developments happening across the country at the state level. And I just want to ask y'all, were your state teams involved in these efforts at all? And do you think this could have paved the way for more victories down the road for Convention of States? I'm going to actually start with Dennis with this question.
Yes, I think we've made a big difference in this election. We've got an application and an ability to reach a lot of voters. Of course, we are nonpartisan, so we can't tell people who to vote for, but we ask them to vote for their values. And during the November 20th elections, we reached out to over 50,000 voters. These are latent voters; they're low propensity voters, but they are registered to vote. And we just needed to nudge them a little bit, and we have a way to make these phone calls, and we've touched a lot of people. I think the way we went through this election, we probably touched over 2 million people through texts and emails and what have you. And this is what legislators, they only really think about two things, and that's money and votes. And we, as an organization, we can't give them money, but we sure are getting a way that we're showing them that we do have the power. And as we continue to increase our size of our grassroots organization, we are going to have more power. Can you imagine? I mean, when you go to a legislator and say, look, I represent, as a COS person, I represent 1,000 or 1,500 or however many petition signers that are in your district. And this is what we want you to do. So yes, we have reached out, and like you said, there was no blue wave this year. We had something like, I believe, 130, 140 seats that we flipped or kept during this election. So I wouldn't say we're all, we were 100% responsible for that, but we certainly made a difference, and we will continue to grow and make more of a difference in our elections, in our relationships with our legislatures, and get this done.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, certainly. My teams in my states took an active part in a lot of elections. Some of them even ran for office. In the state of Kansas, we now have our district captains that are going to be serving in the Kansas legislature, which is amazing. South Dakota, we've had multiple folks that have ran for office, and one of them still serving. Wyoming and Montana, we've had our folks that are not only, like Dennis talked about, helping get out the vote, they're actually stepping up, and they're running for office themselves. One cabinet member in the state of South Dakota that was nominated to Governor Noem's cabinet. You saw Kristi Noem, Governor Noem, who was out there for on national news for. Well, one of her cabinet members was a Convention States district captain. So we've got a lot of these folks that are out there. They're being engaged. They're taking an active part in elections, absolutely, and they're really making a difference. And to what Dennis said as well, my state's even got more red. I operate in some fairly red states, but even some of these districts that didn't change party hands got more conservative, and we saw a lot of more conservatives take out less conservative individuals in primaries. So not only did it get more red in the sense of parties, it got more red in the sense of conservatism across my states, which is very positive, including the state of Michigan, which was able to be held by the it didn't flip hands and actually stayed in to be a red legislature. So we're looking to be very active in all these states coming up, and this is also a unique opportunity. People forget that the state legislatures only meet so often, and some states only meet every 2 years. Wyoming, Montana are instances that I have where we don't get an opportunity to do much for 2 whole years in the legislature. Well, January is when everybody across the country, pretty much, I think, are all going to be in January or February. So this upcoming year, everybody's going to have an opportunity to look at convention of states and get on board with convention of states. So we're looking to pass a few states here early on in 2021, especially with the big move that we've already been talking about with getting more conservative and obviously people getting a bit upset about the election. I know I'm been upset and I'm fired up and I'm ready to hit the ground running here. So that's pretty much the mood I'm hearing in the grassroots from across my region.
That is so encouraging. I love that. Grant, what about you?
Can you hear us, Grant?
Sorry. Yeah, I can hear you. Do you hear me now? Sorry about.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, certainly my teams, and they did an amazing. They did an amazing amount of work this past election season. Dennis touched on something that we did nationwide. I know in South Carolina, the team 11,000 phone calls during the general election. We did a large get out the vote effort throughout nationwide for the general election. There's something on the order of about I think it was another 10,000 phone calls within my region there that did that. So the state teams are really just they've used this opportunity to build political muscle, which is really exciting to see, to watch these teams start to grab it and understand this at stake, and then leverage the tools that we give them to make. That's what I'm seeing more with it. Read about it nationwide, but they're building that political muscle. I was talking earlier about building relationships with legislators, but getting people out there, getting them engaged, and just like I say, I know the teams participated an awful lot with a bunch of elections throughout the states. Had certainly some impact there, and more importantly, really built the political muscle, and just get to be known that much more within the state legislature. So it was awesome to watch.
That's fantastic. All right, Catherine, last but not least, you and your region.
The guys have really touched on the power of our volunteers out there. And I can't not, I have to emphasize this. The Telepatriot missions that we put out there, Ohio really influenced a lot of elections there through their missions. Wisconsin had their own missions, and then my teams in Iowa, Idaho, and Minnesota helped the get out the vote effort in the other states. So all 5 of my states were really engaged in this election, and we see the results of this. When we look at the legislatures that are coming in, we see the influence that COS volunteers had on these elections, and they're only going to continue by building those relationships. So we have a much bigger voice going into 2021 than we did in this last session, and I'm really excited to see what our volunteers can do.
So one thing is really clear. We need this to happen right now. there is a feeling of urgency happening, and we need to call a convention of states now. And the founding fathers, they gave us this tool to use for a time like this. And it's time to pull that switch. 15 states have agreed to sign on to a convention of states where we could implement term limits, fiscal responsibility, and just reducing the overreach that we see coming out of the federal government. We need 19 more states to get to that 34 threshold to call a convention. But we brought the four of you on to this broadcast today because you are regional directors. And so our view want to just get a glimpse into what's going on in your region, because you are there shoulder to shoulder with the volunteers on the ground. So what is the most critical element of your for your state to achieve success in this coming year, and legislative or otherwise? I'll start with you, Dennis. What is a critical element for your state's or your region's success this coming year?
Well, in my states, the critical element is getting our organizations filled in, get our leadership filled in. I have 3 states that do not have state directors, which is a very important position. The grassroots coordinators are very important to reach out to the new grassroots and people coming in and get them introduced to the Convention of States process and what we're going through, and offer them different volunteer opportunities. And then, of course, the district captains, we have a focus. We want a district captain in every legislative session, every legislative district in the United States. And we're maybe about a third of the way there. And in the western states, we do have some challenges to get people involved. But we need to keep growing that grassroots, and so reaching out to the people and educating them to how they can help, and encouraging them to get involved with the Convention of States. We're going to be making a history. We are going to write a new chapter in our history books, and I'm excited to be a part of that, and I want to be a part of that. And we need to pass that on and give that hope to other people that come to us and say, hey, I'd like to help, and let them share in the excitement of setting a new chapter in this country. So that's the main thing, is I want to grow my teams. We've done a lot of reach out and sending out emails and asking people to consider and go to the website and take action. And we'll find a place for them on the team if they're committed to do that. So that's the big thing that we want to do.
All right, Catherine, same question to you. What's going to be the big headline for your region in 2021?
Well, I will tell you that Grant, Dave, and I are having a little bit of a contest to see which of our states can be the first to pass the resolution in 2021. And honestly, the biggest thing I'm telling my teams is build a relationship with your legislators and get people to sign our petition, educate people about Convention of States, because we are going to need the support of the citizens out there when we do come out of the convention and the amendments come back to the state. So build your teams, become a district captain if you can. If you can give us 5 hours a week, 1 hour a week, whatever it is you can give us, come and bring your efforts as a volunteer to Convention of States, because we have great leadership in place in all 5 of my states in my region. They're waiting for you to accept their phone call. So I encourage everyone out there who's listening today to reach out to one of the leaders in Iowa, Idaho, Minnesota, Ohio, and Wisconsin. That's what I need. I need you to accept that phone call from one of our leaders and become a volunteer.
Awesome. Dave, I'm going to jump over to you. Do you think you're going to get the state first in 2021?
I'm certainly going to give it the best shot. We have some really good states that are lining up. As as was mentioned there, that they're getting used to seeing convention of states being a big hot topic in their state. And there's a lot of new freshman legislators, as we talked about earlier, that are getting educated on the subject matter. So rushing to see who's going to be the first to adopt. Obviously, I'm in that contest. I'm going to be pushing pretty hard in some of my states, like in Kansas and South Dakota and Wyoming and Montana, trying to get those states on board. But I want to just go to the overall subject matter a little bit more with convention of states. And I hear it all the time that, we should have been doing this earlier. We should have had a convention by now. We're at 15 states. We still need 19 more to call a convention. And we've got to always remember timelines here. As conservatives, we think that if we get involved right now, then we can affect change right now. And what we've learned as an organization, and what I've learned in my 7 years with this organization and being an activist, is the progressives have been doing this for 100 years. And their activism is amazing in the fact that they've been able to change things over a 100-year time. So we've got to understand some timelines. Convention of States is not designed to happen in a year or even 2 years. We've been working on this only for 7 years, and we've got 15 states on board. I think that we're going to jump, and we're going to have quite a few jump on this year and possibly the next year after. We might be at a convention in 2 years. I don't know that. But what I am confident is we're going to continue to move towards the convention and really push the initiative in Washington and the fact that they're going to see the writing on the wall. They're going to understand that the states are rising up together in mass, not one, not just Texas, not just one state of Montana, but 34 states are binding together to really affect change. And that's what the exciting part is about Convention of States. And that's what we're asking everybody to get involved with. So we need everybody. If you're talking about this thing taking too slow, what are you doing? Are you part of the solution? Are you a district captain? Are you a state leader in your state? Are you helping the initiative? Do you have a relationship with your state legislator? Because if you don't know who your state legislator, I'm talking the state representative and the state senator, if you don't know who those people are, you're part of the problem.
Grant, what about you?
The headline coming out of my region is going to be multiple states have passed the resolution. And I'm told, hear me, computers. Hopefully you're hearing some of that. My computer's giving me issues right now. But bottom line, the headline is going to be multiple states have passed the Convention of States resolution. What do we need to make that happen? We need grassroots activists. I think the other RDs have mentioned that all this happens only when people get engaged, and it's so that to me is what's so exciting being out there in its roots. And it kind of fits the theme of what we've been talking about here, as far as activism and what's the temperature out there. People are engaged. Many of my state teams right now, they're writing congratulations letters to their newly elected state legislators. They're making phone calls to them. They're scheduling meetings. They are on it, and they are they're just building that power and that relationship. But we always need more grassroots activists. And if you think about it, here in Convention States, we're 4 million supporters. Imagine when we're at 10 million, 20 million, 30 million across the nation. It's going to be amazing. And the thing is, this year I know is going to be a darn good year for Convention of States. And as more and more states pass, think about the exposure that's going to happen. It's going to become a national media event. If you think that we get 6, 7, 8 states to pass this year, just think how amazing that's going to be, and it's going to show the real possibility that each one of us know that this is going to happen. But this is going to show people that that's what's going to happen. So I am really, really excited about this year. and certainly with them in my region, I expect to see several really good legislative sessions this year. So very excited about it.
That's fantastic. We're going to wrap up here in just a second, but one last thing. In one sentence or less, I have one question for you, and your answer has to be one sentence or less. Is it going to be a big year for Convention of States movement? I'm going to start with, let's go with Catherine first on this one.
I anticipate 3 of my states will pass this year, with the other 2 states just gaining tons and tons of petition signers. So yes, it's going to be a huge year for Convention of States in my region.
Nice. I love it. What about you, Dave?
Absolutely going to be a big year for Convention of States.
Cool. And Dennis?
Well, it's going to be a big year. I don't know that we'll have any pass in the Western region, but we've got one state, possibly New Mexico. Looks pretty good, and we're gonna keep fighting. It's going to happen. So I think it's good year ahead.
Nice. And Grant, last but not least.
Hell yeah, it's going to be a big year for Convention of States, and we are excited about it. Yes, so most certainly jump on board, make it a big year. It's only a big year if you get involved. So, yes.
I love it. Y'all, thank you so much for joining us this evening for today's COS Live. It was an absolute pleasure to have y'all, for taking out some time out of your busy day. I know that y'all have so much going on in your states and in your region, so thank you so much. We'll have you back on again soon.
Love being here. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Whitney.
All right, now we're going to sign off. As we all know, DC is broken, but as you can see, there is some good news. There's a plan. The Founding Fathers were brilliant. They knew that this might happen, and they gave us a solution for such a time as this, as Catherine has brilliantly pointed out in that interview. So that's why Convention of States is working to use Article 5 of the Constitution to put people back in charge. The movement is well underway, with over 4 million Americans in 15 states on board so far, and 34 is the magic number. So we need approximately 19 more. And I think this next year will be amazing. And I think we're going to get a lot of that underway in 2021. People are just biting at the bit to get out there and have their boots back on the ground again. And if you are someone who is passionate about this as well, there are plenty of leadership and volunteer opportunities for you to take advantage of. When you go to www.conventionofstates.com, you can share the petition and join your local COS team.
Yeah, it's time for us to get back to work because we have a country to save. And it's only going to be possible with grassroots activists just like you. So we have to get back to work. But remember, this is our final episode for 2020. It's been an amazing time coming and sharing the grassroots activity that's going on across the nation on these Facebook Live episodes. We'll be back in 2021. But remember, if you are wondering who is going to restore the republic, don't look towards DC politicians. Instead, look in the mirror, because it's going to be people like you who are going to restore the republic. All right, we'll see you in 2021. Bye.